Hello, online statistics. So a few of you are still struggling with the project. So I want to give a couple pieces of advice as far as going through that part of it. When we look here, I'm on the home page of our class. If I scroll down, not too far, I am going to find my project piece of it. So we have the project instructions. We also have some sample claims and sample data collection. If I click on the sample claims, it's going to take a second to open up. One of the things that we want to make sure as we go through, we want to have questions that we can answer. And as we look at that, we can ask people the question. And when they ask that question, what we can do is we can have one single answer for the question. And so as we go through, we can look and we can think about the question that we can ask people. According to the Bureau of Labor, the average hourly earnings for all employees in the private sector is $23.09. So for this question, you would have to ask 100 people what their hourly earning rate is. So some of the things that might happen here is people are going to do what? People might lie, so you might not necessarily get the specific data. So the bias is you might not have complete honesty. The Facebook data team claims that the average number of friends on a Facebook is 120. So something like this, if you're on Facebook, you can put a post and ask all of your friends, how many friends do they have? People are going to be honest on something like this. Some students have actually even just gone out and looked at how many friends 100 of their friends have and did it that way. And that way they didn't actually have to ask all those people. But one of the things that happens here is the bias that you would have with the number of Facebook friends would be what? That's the average number of friends that your friends have, but different people might have a different number of friends. For example, if you were some star, you would probably have millions of friends on Facebook as opposed to hundreds of friends, or you might have thousands of friends. So different populations might have different number of friends, but you're probably only going to get it from your friends. The American Diabetic Association claims the population average fiber intake is less than or equal to 15 grams per day. Most people don't know how much fiber they intake per day, so that's a tough question. Scientists at the Albert Einstein College of Medicine claim that the human lifespan is likely to be a maximum of 125. So something like this, you'd be trying to find how old various people were when they died. And you're looking for that maximum number. Google claims its self-driving cars have more experience driving than any human, over 2 million miles. So something like this is also a tough claim because how many total miles have you driven? And most people don't know. They know they average maybe 5,000 to 10,000 miles per year, then they can multiply it. And so as we go through, we have different questions that you can ask. Some questions that students have come up with that I think have been some really great questions. Some of them have been, how many red Skittles are in the average mini pack of a Skittle? So they buy 50 or 100 bags of the mini Skittles and they count how many red are in each of those. And then they use that as their data. Other people have asked about the number of cars in a household. The average number of cars in a household is 1.9. You ask people, how many cars do you have? The average size of a family. How many people live in your household? So you can ask the average number of people in the household. So there's a lot of different ways that you can go about this. The most important thing to know is that it has to be one single number for an answer. You don't want a range of numbers. You want to have that one single number, because remember what you have to do. You're going to have to go through and calculate things based on this data that you ask. So you can't ask yes or no questions, and you also can't ask qualitative, which is going to be different pieces. If you do ask a quantitative, you want to make sure that it's one single number. You're not going to provide that range of numbers for the people. So part one is going to be to collect those 100 pieces of data. That's going to take a while. So that's why you definitely want to have that done by the end of this week. One of the easiest things to do is put it into Excel. Remember, as you collect that 100 pieces of data, you want to put it into a chart in Excel, because the first thing that I want for part one here is I want those 100 pieces of data. The reason for that is I have to double check your answers. I want to make sure that you're correct. You're providing me the raw data. So it's literally for part one, in order to get full credit, what I need is I need all 100 pieces of data that you collected. Part two, answer the following questions. Type your answer in complete sentences. Don't give me one-word answers. There's 5 parts to part two. Number 1, what sampling technique did you use to collect the data? How do you know? Most of you guys are going to use what? Voluntary response. You're going to ask somebody a question, and they're either going to choose to answer it or choose not to answer it. So that's going to be your voluntary response. Some of you are going to have different options for that as well. Describe any bias in the samples. This is going to go back to depending on who you're asking. If you're asking a certain group of people, different people are going to have different sets of answers just based on human nature. If you ask the average family size, if you live in an apartment building and you only ask the people in the apartment building, or if you live in a dorm, if you're asking people in the dorm, it might be a little bit different versus if you are asking people at a daycare center. If you're asking people at a daycare center, it's more likely that they have what? They have children, so it's going to be a little bit bigger of a family size. Are these qualitative or quantitative? They better be quantitative. They can't be qualitative. So if it is quantitative, is it continuous or is it discrete? Continuous is going to be like the weight of things. So you have those decimal points after. Most of you guys are going to ask discrete data. So the discrete data is going to be countable. You can count the number of trees, 1, 2, 3, 4. Remember continuous, if you're asking the number of people, it has to be discrete. But if you're asking the salary, remember that question about the hourly rate? That's going to be continuous. They can make $15.03 an hour. Are they from a population or are they from a sample? Most of you guys are going to have a sample, not the full population. So most of you guys are going to have that sample. Is it more likely to be descriptive or inferential? So you're going to have to come up with that one. If you have any questions, let me know. Part 3, you want a frequency distribution using 5 to 8 classes. So what is that going to be? Remember we had those classes? So if you're asking the number of days you attend college per week, or the number of days you work per week, that would be discrete data, and your classes would be what? 0 to 1, 2 to 3, 4 to 5, 6 to 7. And remember, each of your classes needs to be a consistent width. So that means you can't have your first class as just a 0 and your second class as 1 to 2. Because then the width of the first class would only be 1 and the width of the second class would be 2. So make sure that you have the same number of numbers in each of your classes, and then you can do your frequency distribution. Create 2 different appropriate pictorial representations of your data, whether it's a bar, column graph, pie chart. If you have it in Excel, makes it a little bit easier. We're going to continue with some of this frequency distribution in another video as the time gets closer. You guys, it's the end of week 3 that you're going to want to have this piece together. So you really want to start asking those 100 pieces of information very, very, very quickly. If you have an incomplete right now on your project claim, make sure you double check the questions that I'm asking within the comments and get back to me quickly. Good luck, and I hope this helps some of you guys get started a little bit. We'll talk to you soon.